Today, we are looking at the pound as it struggles to hold the trend line I mentioned over the weekend. So I'll have all the details in today's video. We'll talk key levels and where I think this market could be going here over the coming weeks. So first of all, what I talked about over the weekend, guys, if you'll remember, we discussed how the pound here, GBPUSD on the daily time frame, could be carving something very similar to what we saw in 2024 at the high. Now, this is yet to be confirmed, okay, at least fully. But you can see where the price action here in 2024, we had this rising wedge that formed. Okay, so you can see where the market kind of got squeezed up here in this area. We obviously saw a drop of over 1,000 pips. And you can see where we're getting a very similar pattern here so far, going all the way back here to late 2024, early 2025. Okay, so this is yet to be confirmed because technically you could make the case that this market is still holding above it, depending on how you draw that lower level. And furthermore, what we also talked about over the weekend was this idea that the RSI, if you look down here, is also kind of carving something very similar to what we saw last year at the high. So looking at the highs here on the RSI, you can see where this right here, these two are essentially equal. So there was no bearish divergence here. However, if you look at these two highs right over here, you can see where we did get a lower high from the RSI. And at the same time, you can see where we did get the pound from this high over here on the RSI, the pound here was actually carving a higher high. Okay, so this right here, these two highs here for the price, and this right here from the RSI, this is technically a bearish divergence. Now, obviously, this right here from the RSI, guys, you can't trade based on this alone. This isn't enough. Price action is always going to be king. And you can see where we started to get the breakdown here on this market, and that obviously, again, led to an over 1,000 pip drop. So right now we are seeing something very similar, again, because you can see where over here on the RSI, these highs over here were essentially equal, so there was no divergence here. However, if you look at these last two highs on the RSI, you can see where we are getting something very similar to back here in 2024. Okay, so again, you've got these highs over here on the chart on the price, and these highs on the RSI, very similar to what we're getting right now this year, okay? So the question is this going to play out the same way as it did in 2024? And obviously there are no guarantees and markets never repeat, right? They can rhyme, but they never repeat. And so we have to treat this based on its own merits, okay? And what I mean by that is that even though we are seeing the market start to break down a little bit here this week, and I'll talk about that in a moment, we have to respect the key levels here up here on the chart because, again, the RSI is only part of the equation. It's not even half of the equation. It's only a very, very small part. You have to look at the price action. And so far, what I talked about over the weekend is that as long as the pound is above levels like this here, 134.30, you have to respect the upside because the market is still carving higher highs and higher lows. Now, full disclosure, guys, I did put on a short here today that is a little bit underwater. My stop loss is above this high up here. And this is a very small position, okay? This is a starter position to where I can build into this if we do get that downside momentum, but right now it is yet to be seen, okay? Now, the reason why I put that position on is because there are technically two ways to draw this trend line. And this is why trend lines are a little bit tricky, but you can see where from this low down here, if you draw the trend line up here in this area, all right, so technically this is valid. This level up here is valid because even though you can make the case, well, you're cutting off this wick down here, yes, but it's still above or below, in this case, the closing price on this candle. And you can make the case that you got this low through here and even this one. So you could technically even draw this a little bit higher. And you can see where so far today's high is coming off of this area. Okay, so right up here. So this trend line right here is technically valid. Okay, and you can see where the market did break down here recently. So it does look like we are getting, a very early start to a breakdown. But the key here, though, is going to be the DXY. And I said this over the weekend, too. And this is the one reason why I'm not feeling fully confident with this idea and why it is just a starter position. Okay, so right now we have the market breaking tentatively below this. However, at the same time, you can also see that this very conservative level from this low down here off of this low, you can see where the market is technically still holding above this. Okay. And again, we still have that uptrend intact. All right. So again, very small starter position for me. And when I say small, guys, it's relative to your balance, of course, but I'm risking, less than 0.5%. Typically for me, guys, a starter position is right around, 0.15% or so, with the idea that I'll scale it up to about 0.3, 0.4%. I never risk 1%. I definitely never risk 2%. That whole idea of 1 to 2% of your account balance, in my opinion, is incredibly ridiculous because you're just setting yourself up for failure and to be down, 10% in a matter of a few trades. So I never risk 1%. I never really even risk, 0.5%. 0.5%, guys, for me would be a very, decent sized trade. So looking here, again, we have the market holding above this level, but again, as I just showed, it is starting to break down from a secondary level that you can draw here. Now, the reason why, though, again, I'm not very, too confident in this potential drop here from the pound is you look at the DXY and the market just continues to grind lower, right? And I talked about this again over the weekend where we had that potential, keyword there, potential for this to be a higher low. But for that to materialize, we would have to see the market get above this trend line here from February. We'd also have to see it get above 100.2, which we have not seen it yet. So lower highs, lower lows, downtrend is intact. There is no sign of a reversal here just yet for the DXY. All right, so, again, you might be wondering, well, why'd you short the pound then if the market hasn't broken out yet? And, GBPUSD is technically still below or above, this trend line here. And the reason I did, again, it's a starter position, guys. I got in, right up here, just underwater right now. And the idea here is that if that secondary trend line holds up and if this structure here for the pound does hold up, right, and we see the market start to rotate lower, then I can always scale into the position. But as of right now, I'm perfectly comfortable taking that 0.15% loss, if I have to, with the stop loss above this recent high. Okay, so we will see what we get here over the coming days, guys, but I still think that the potential is there for a significant drop from this market if we do get that confirmation, just because, again, you look at the similarities here to 2024, and it is striking, and I hesitate to sit here and talk about the potential for, a drop of 500 pips or 1,000 pips, just because we don't have that confirmation yet, and the market is still carving higher highs and higher lows, hasn't quite broken down yet, but the potential is there, okay? What I think this is really going to come down to, and this is kind of my closing thoughts on this, and this is by no means financial advice, guys, but like I said over the weekend, I think that if you're looking for that high conviction play, you've got areas like this back here, okay? 134.30, this is going to be the level to watch, to where if we see a sustained break below, this up here becomes a failed breakout, and we get that push down here towards some of these key levels, okay? Now, the other reason why I decided to enter a very small position here today is you can see that back here, right? A lot of times when you get a market that does this for months, when you get the unwind, it doesn't always give you a retest of that level, okay? So look back here. You can see where we got the market holding above right here. The very next candle, the breakdown candle from back here, was actually this one, okay? So this candle right here was technically the breakdown candle, and you can see where we did not get any retest up here, not even close, before the market just started to sell off. So again, this is why I decided to get in today, a very small starter position in case we do get that follow through, and in case we don't get a retest, which often does happen when you see a market do this over the course of months. Okay, so we'll see what we get here. One scenario too that I'm eyeing for the pound here is that if you go back to this price action, you can see that back here in 2022, we had all these highs around 136.30. And this is the reason I have this level drawn on my chart. So there is a chance, if you look here at the recent high for GBPUSD, you can see where this high right here didn't quite test it, okay? So there is still the potential that we get the market coming up here, filling in this upper wick, and even fully testing, giving us that full retest of 136.30 before we get that rotation lower. So in that case, guys, I would be okay because my stop loss is, well above this high. I never put my stop loss just above the high. But again, even if I get stopped out, guys, I have no problem, with a second chance opportunity here if we do get a full retest of 136.30 and I see something there that warrants a trade, okay? So we'll see how this plays out. Again, though, guys, the DXY is really the one to watch. If you're trading the euro, the pound, whatever, any major currency pair, I really think that the DXY is the one to watch because this trend line here from February is so clean. And we also have, like I said before, that area around 97.7, that could come into play. We saw a very close retest to that area back here in April, but not a full retest, okay? So we could get something down here in this area, but really for the DXY to reverse course, it is going to take a close, a sustained break above this trend line here, also levels like 100.2. Although at this point, guys, I would really say that if we were to get the market breaking above this trend line here, then we are probably looking at a reversal, okay? But until that time, you've got levels like 97.7, coming into play down here with the market just looking really weak here. Unless I can put something together here in the next couple of days, but it does kind of look like we will get that retest down there at 97.7. Below that, obviously, you've got this area around 95, way down there. So we'll see how it goes, guys. I mean, as of right now, I said it over the weekend as well. These markets are really not ideal conditions right now. I haven't traded too much at all recently in recent weeks, just because even though this market is trending higher, you look at the pound here, and really since back here on this candle on May 23rd, okay, this has really just been a range. Okay, it's been a very choppy market, and we saw the same thing happen back here. So this is how markets tend to move, but recently, I'll tell you across the board, the euro, the pound, especially the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, even the dollar yen, everything is just very sideways. Everything is very choppy. So just be really careful out there if you are going to place trades. In my opinion, I would do so with a very small position size, maybe half of what you normally risk or even less. But, again, never financial advice, just my opinion. I hope this video has helped, guys. Stay safe out there in these markets. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and also don't forget to turn on that bell notification for these videos because they are coming out Monday through Friday. Trade well out there. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.